This video is for educational purposes only. Hovercraft building involves risk. Please see the full disclaimer in the video description.
So what comes by weight, does it, this material, skirt material? Is it 5 ounce, 3 ounce on the thickness, the strength?
Yeah, so the rating's usually associated with the material, and then you've often got a coating on the material as well. So this stuff that we've got, this big roll here, this is quite a strong, thick fabric. This is 6 ounce.
Okay.
I think it's 6 ounces per square yard, I think is the measurement, which is the weight of the cloth.
Yep.
And then it's got a neoprene coating on it as well, which then adds extra weight to it. So it's not 6 ounces per segment, it's not 6 ounces per yard overall weight. It's the cloth is 6 ounces, and then it's got additional weight as well.
So waterproof material as well?
Yeah, so the neoprene adds this sort of rubber coating. So you've got this neoprene coating on it that is the waterproof agent. It's probably reasonably waterproof and reasonably airtight, just as material. But the neoprene adds that extra layer. That means that it keeps the air in the skirt. And there's various different ratings. So you can get a 4 ounce version of this. You can get much heavier weight stuff, the sort of bag skirt material. We've got some of the, you know, the really thick sort of rubberized coated stuff, which is even heavier and thicker.
It's almost feels like a lorry curtain. Obviously, yeah, it's not that.
Well, it may well be. Yeah. It's that kind of material.
Yeah.
So it's a really thick rubberized coating. We use that for bag skirts, for the underfloor bags or the drag flaps. You run underneath the craft. Very hard wearing. It's not very easy to sew. So you want to try and keep the design as simple as possible for something like that. And the loop that we put underneath isn't actually sewn at all. It's just looped round. So, you know, you fasten it on the underside of the craft, and then you loop it around the rear segments, and that just seals those segments off and stops them filling up full of water. So a drag flap, basically. So that's really heavy stuff. Then you've got the stuff that you'd make your heavyweight skirt segments out of, 6 ounce. If you wanted to go lighter, you could go 4 ounce. And then we've got this stuff here, which is almost non-existent. I don't know where it came from. We got it with something many years ago, and we've been using it on some of Les's segments in the DT50 this year, last year.
And this is, oh wow, that's really light, isn't it?
Weighs nothing at all. So you could probably make a set out of this, and it will be lighter than probably 3 segments out of that stuff. It's super light. The advantage with it being super light is it conforms really well. So as you're driving over rough obstacles and sharp objects and things like that, because it doesn't have any inherent stiffness in its own, and it doesn't have this sort of structure, it's only the air pressure behind it holding its shape, it can collapse and conform to whatever you're driving over, so it's less likely to sort of rip and tear and puncture. But obviously it's got less strength to it, so when it does get ripped or teared or punctured, it punches and tears very relatively easily. So it's always a balancing act in skirts. If you're running F50 and you're already on the weight limit, why would you go to a lighter skirt? But if you're, you know, running Formula 3 and there's no weight limit, it's worth trying the lighter stuff just to see if it's any good or not.
Yeah. And
if you like it, and if you don't like it, you know, then you go to a heavier stuff.
Yeah.
And it helps if you can make it yourself, because then you can sort of iterate around the design. You can choose different fabrics and different materials. So what we're going to do is just do a few segments, so discuss the different attributes of the different materials and the different segments, so show how it can be sewn on a normal machine, and hopefully anyone who's watching who's interested can, you know, sort of use this as a sort of an example, not a tutorial exactly, but how it can be done, and if it can help them do that, then, you know, they can then sort of move on and do the one thing from there. So all we've got at the moment, we've just got material on the floor. We've got a predefined design.
Quite a small pattern. Is that the whole pattern?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very simple. This particular one is a very simple design. I'm just gonna go around it in the pen. Hopefully, leaving some ink on the and then you can see maybe the outline. The problem with black material is it's very difficult to mark. And then we've got a pair of scissors. In this case, particularly easy to put shape.
Okay, but also you could put it on some nice large slab of chipboard, and use a Stanley knife just to cut straight around the pattern, right?
Yeah,
If you wanted to.
you could do. That's the way I used to do it at home back in Kendal. Middle of the living room, lump of wood, and a bit of old plywood, and a metal shape, which I think we've still got somewhere for the BBV segment, and then you'd trim around it with a Stanley knife. The problem with that is eventually your template gets smaller because you inevitably chop little bits off it as you're doing it, and you also end up shedding bits of wood everywhere, and then you've got to hoover up afterwards, unless you're not really happy. So we've done one segment. Okay, it's a very simple segment, and this is just the standard open segment. There's another template which has seen better days, but it's fundamentally just used for marking those 2 points there. And they're going to be our points for sort of roughly sighting the design. So when we come to sew it together, what we're going to do is fold that corner into that corner, and hopefully it will meet at the point we just marked.
So that's the top of the skirt, is it?
This is the top. So that's the bit. This bit here is the bit that goes onto the outer edge of the craft. This will be the dart that we're going to put in that changes its profile. So you can see it's ending there, which is by the mark. So we're just going to sew around that bit, and then we're going to do the same on the other bit. And then these bottom corners will be folded in and sewn, and that should present us with our skirt. So in effect, we've got sort of this corner to this corner, down to about there. And that we lose that bit of material, so it pulls this edge in to there, and that then gives it a three-dimensional sort of shape. So we'll just run that up on the sewing machine.
This video is sponsored by Moravia UK, leaders in public safety and site protection. From traffic control to industrial safety gear, they have got you covered. Check them out at moravia.co.uk.
So this is just a standard Singer, sort of old style home. Oh dear, there. Right. So this is just an old household sewing machine.
You picked this up second hand?
Yeah, you can see there it's from Kendal. Back in the day, we've got two of these because they're so good. One came on the market, so we bought another one.
Are they expensive?
Not particularly, sort of 40, 50 quid, something like that.
Oh,
because they don't do all the fancy embroidery sort of settings. You can zigzag, and you can go to smaller or reverse stitches. So that's no progress on the foot. That's 6, probably. Well, that'll be more than 4 millimeters between each stitch.
Yep.
And we want as big a gap between the stitches as we can, so it's either usually a full down or full up for reverse. And that's it. That's just the bobbin winding device, and everything else is fairly standard.
It's actually quite a smaller sewing machine than I was expecting you to have, though.
Yeah, it's not a.
I was expecting to have a bit more of a robust.
No, it is robust because it's quite old. The reason we use these is because you just see there that on the settings we've got maximum tension on the top thread. That's wound up to 9. Normally, if you were sewing using normal thread under normal circumstances, normal material, you'd be adjusting that somewhere in the middle to sort of 4 or 5, something like that. But because we're running big needle, quite strong thread, I think it is Teflon coated, but it still struggles to pull through relatively grippy material, and when we're sewing the neoprene coated stuff, it's very grippy. So trying to control the top tension versus the bottom tension is the tricky bit. So that's why we're using relatively old sewing machine, because they've got quite a lot of tension adjustment on them.
Yeah.
We're using a big needle with a big hole in it, so it punches through the material, and therefore you've got a big hole to draw the thread through.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got it folded over there, corner to corner. That's the mark that we made earlier. It gives us an idea that we're on roughly the right track. So we're just going to put a little bit of progress back stitch just to sort of seal it off a little bit, and then an arc of stitching down to our mark, and then back up and then cut it off. And what that's done is it's effectively put a dart in, and that dart has meant that we've got a change in section between the front and then the side. So this now wraps around, instead of just being a flat sheet, it wraps around like that. And what we're going to do now is the same on the other side. So again, corner to corner, somewhere near here, there's the mark there. It's quite slippy material, so it's all over the place. And whenever you finish, you always sort of go back over the stitch line again, just to sort of seal things off, because otherwise it'll all come undone and unpicked. So that's the inside,
Yeah.
with the two darts.
And you're putting the Teflon on the inside, aren't you? Teflon, sorry, the waterproof on the inside.
Well, this stuff's difficult to tell where the coating is actually, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
But there you've got the top of the segment. That's the bit that runs down and actually becomes the segment, and then each side then pulls back in.
Yeah.
And all we've got to do now is fit the lower skirt attachment points, which are just folding that triangle over.
Obviously, you want them well stitched, quite strong.
Yeah, it's quite a weak material, so it's probably not the stitching that's going to be the problem. Okay, so we've just got a little triangular stitch in there, and then just making sure we've got the inside here. Same again there. Your fancy machines do an automatic back stitch when you release the pedal. Some of them will even be set so that it cuts the thread off at a perfect length and things like that. But this is just a bog-standard household machine, so we don't have any bells and whistles like that. But what we do have is good tension adjustment. We get in reasonable stitching. You can tell from the stitching itself. Unfortunately, got black material, black stitching. But what you're looking for with something like this, when you look setting the tension, and normally you do that on a dummy bit of material before you start sewing, is that you've got the stitches sort of go into the material on both sides, and effectively what you've got is a loop of thread running across the top surface, and another loop of thread running across the bottom surface, and the two sort of join and overlap in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever get to a position where all of the thread is on one side, that it's coming up and it's looping over on one side, and the top thread is just a flat line, then you need to adjust the tension so that you end up right. But the intention with that is that's your cable tie goes through, that attaches. So that's the top of your segment. that's attaching it onto the bottom of the planing surface, and your segment just sort of hangs like that.
And that's the basic skirt.
That is as basic a skirt as you're ever going to get.
Wow.
And that's what we've been running on our F3s and F50s and Coltcraft and Formula S craft and everything else.
I'm
It's
shocked at how
not
basic and easy that
sophisticated
was.
at all.
No.
The design of I think this might be the Predator segment. It's the Predator segment. You can see it's a much broader bottom edge with an extra bit that
It seems like there's more stitching in that.
fits
one.
on top. Yes, so there will be. So the BBV segment's not a million miles different to that. This is the Predator segment design. What we've done to try and reduce the material wastage, given that it's not cheap stuff, is instead of having the full segment, which would have been like that, where you stitch this bit into here and cut all of that out in one go, what we've done is we've taken that off so that you cut that bit out, and then from the wasted material later on you cut out a series of those, and then you stitch those bits onto there, and then you stitch it all back together as you would do normally, and it just means that you can get more material, more segments out of that material.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this helpful and that you're inspired to start making your own skirts. Feel free to drop a comment if you have any tips, questions or ideas you'd like to share. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss episode 2, where we'll dive into how to repair skirts. See you next time.